I've put up this video to show you how you can use your needle and thread to hand sew. Not having a sewing machine should not be your limitation to whether you can learn fashion designing or not. You can actually start with using your hand and then you graduate. So for this project, you're going to be needing your needle and your thread, and you're going to be using your hand to sew this. Now these are two separate pieces of fabric and we're going to be joining this. The method I'll be using to join this is the method you're going to be using to join your pieces as well. So I just want to do this for illustration purpose. You can see I went on to draw a line because we're going to be sewing on that line. I went on to thread my needle, and at the end of the thread I will just knot it to secure that end. Now we're going to start by sewing, by knotting our starting point. So you can see how I'm placing my needle from the top to the bottom. Okay, so just your first stitch should be tied properly so it doesn't loosen. You can just do this one or twice or thrice actually, and after you've gotten that spot secure, you can now continue sewing. Okay, so at this point it is tied, and then we are now going to sew on the line we have made. This is just to give us that straight stitch. So if you're making a straight stitch, you can go ahead to use your rule to draw this out, or just sketch out where you want to sew. So that chalk is going to be a guide on how you should sew. So can you see how I'm placing my thread and needle into the fabric from the back, and I'm bringing it back to the top. If you're going to be using this method making an actual outfit, then make sure that the space you have between each stitch is close. The tighter your stitch is, then the more it is going to hold firm and last longer. I'm going to still be showing you how to make a loose stitch, but what we are having here is a tight and close stitch. And to achieve this, all you need to do is to sew in beads. Okay, so this is like a faster method I'm doing. I'm just doing this 2 or 3 times before dragging out my thread. The only disadvantage to this is that hand sewing is actually very slow compared to using a sewing machine. This doesn't mean you can't use this method to make a full outfit. Of course you can, it's just that you're going to be very slow. In fact, in the olden days, this was the method that was used to make a garment, where our mothers would have to hand stitch until everything revolved and we have a sewing machine. So it's not a bad idea to try this again if you don't have a machine. Okay, you just have to be patient and do it neatly. So I'm done with making small stitch. I'm just going to show you how to make bigger stitch. Can you see how the spacing is between this and the last one? I'm giving more space to it, creating it loose. But like I said, if you're sewing an actual outfit, then you should make it tighter and smaller. Okay, this is actually faster, more like a shortcut. But if you're making an actual outfit, then make it tight. When you get to the end, you just knot it tight to secure it, like you can see me doing. I'm just going to open this up for you to see the difference between the tight stitch and the loose stitch. You're going to notice the difference between these two stitches. The part where we did the loose stitch, you can see how visible the thread is when I separated it, push them against each other, compared to this part where we had the loose stitch. And if you don't look at it from the back, you wouldn't know that this was hand sewn. You'll think it's a machine. So this is how you're going to do this if you don't have a machine. Okay, so this is not to stop you from learning how to sew. You can use your hand. Now I want to show you how to hem your outfit. You know how you make an outfit and then at the hem you want to double fold. I'm going to be teaching you this technique to give you that look-alike machine kind of stitch. The first stitching technique we used was for joining two pieces. Now this technique we are using is to hem the blouse, or whatever you're making, the blouse, the skirt, the hem of your sleeve, whatever you're making. This technique is for the hem. We call this kind of stitch the back stitch. Okay, where you're going to first of all knot the startup point, and when you bring out your needle, you're just going to return back from the beginning of that last stitch to create a continuous stitch. You know how you have a machine sewn clothes and you're not seeing spacing between the stitches? That's what we are trying to create here. So the trick I use to give this stitch a machine finished look is to use a single thread. If you can look closely, you see that this thread is not double, just a single rope is holding this stitch. As long as you sew it well, it's not going to lose. So can you see that I didn't double this thread? It's just one single thread. And this is how you keep sewing till you are done. Make sure that you're following the line. You can draw a line to sew in a straight line, and you can see that it's giving this machine stitch look. This method can be used to hem either your blouse, your skirt, your sleeve, anything you need to hem. You can just use this method, and when you do it right, it's going to look like you have used the machine to finish this. If you wish to double your stitch, you can still double it, but like I said, this gives it that seamless finishing, making it look original as though it was stitched by a machine. So this is what we have here. You're just going to continue this way till you are done. Okay, so I believe you get the message. This is what the back looks like. It's only from the back you can tell that it was not stitched with a sewing machine. So you can only use this for the hem, but when you want to sew, you can use this other stitching technique. I'm not discouraging you from getting the machine, but while you're working towards that, you can use this technique to practice in the meantime.